The world did not begin with cities or empires, nor with kings sitting upon carved thrones. Long before the written scripts of humanity, when the earth was still young and the sky felt closer to the ground, there existed a people whose memory now slips like mist through the fingers of time. They were called the Genies, guardians of stories, keepers of secrets, and architects of the first legends that built the world. Their record was not carved in stone or pressed onto clay tablets. Instead, it was woven into the rhythm of the stars, carried across winds, and whispered into the hearts of those who listened. The Genies believed that the world was shaped not only by battles or rulers but by stories powerful enough to ignite civilizations. Their greatest work, known as the Great Geniez Record, was a collection of living legends, tales so profound that they were said to guide the rise and fall of humanity. Although the record was never written in ink, it lived on through generations, passed from elder to child, from wanderer to pilgrim, from dreamer to king. According to the oldest legends, the Genies were born in a valley where three great rivers met. The rivers carried the water that fed the first forests, carved the earliest paths, and reflected the constellations that marked the passing of ages. The people who lived here were not warriors or conquerors, they were observers. They studied the movement of stars, the shifting of seasons, the migration of animals, and the unspoken patterns of human nature. Over time, they became masters of memory, capable of reciting histories stretching back thousands of years. When other tribes forgot, the Genies remembered. Their legends were not simple tales meant to entertain. Each story carried a lesson, a warning, or a spark of wisdom. One such legend spoke of the first builder, a man who learned to shape rock with fire and led his people out of darkness. Another told of the dawn woman, whose voice carried such power that she could guide storms away from her village. These stories, though mythical in tone, reflected real events in the earliest days of civilization. The Genies believed that if a story was told with enough truth, it became a force capable of altering the world itself. Some say that the Genies could foresee the future. Others claim they merely understood the past so deeply that the future could be predicted with remarkable accuracy. There were times when leaders from faraway lands traveled for months to seek counsel from them. A king preparing for war would sit with a Genies elder and hear a legend about a ruler who lost everything because he ignored the wisdom of his people. A queen seeking to expand her kingdom would hear the story of a woman whose thirst for power brought drought to her land. These tales were meant not to instruct directly, but to illuminate possibilities, like stars guiding a traveler across unfamiliar terrain. One of the most powerful legends in the Geniez record was the tale of the twin fires. It spoke of two flames born from the same spark. One fire grew brighter and brighter until it consumed everything around it. The other burned softly, giving warmth without destruction. When the bright fire raged out of control, the gentle fire embraced it, and together they balanced into a steady glow. The Genies used this legend to explain the dual nature of humanity: ambition and compassion, strength and wisdom, chaos and order. Empires that embraced balance thrived, those that sought only brightness collapsed. As centuries passed, the influence of the Genies spread further. Their stories traveled with sailors who crossed uncharted oceans and with merchants who traded across deserts. Even as cultures rose and fell, fragments of these legends survived, hidden within myths, religions, and ancient traditions. But the Genies themselves remained mysterious. Some believed they were wanderers who never built cities but carried their knowledge like nomads of the mind. Others believed they lived in a hidden city of crystal towers where memories were stored in glowing orbs. Regardless of the truth, their presence shaped civilizations in ways that often went unnoticed. One story tells of a young Genies girl named Lyra, whose memory was so sharp and heart so open that she could listen to a stranger's fear and uncover the story behind it. During a time when neighboring tribes were at the brink of war, Lyra walked between them with nothing but her voice. She shared a legend about two brothers who fought until they forgot why they began. When they finally laid down their weapons, they realized the land they ruined was the same land both had loved. The chiefs listened, they wept, they chose peace. For years afterward, they sent gifts to the Geniez Valley, grateful for the story that saved thousands of lives. Another tale speaks of a Geniez storyteller named Oron, who traveled to a kingdom threatened by famine. The rulers begged him for miracles, but he offered only a story, a tale of ancient farmers who learned to read the sky and predict the rains. Inspired, the king's scholars studied Oron's story and used its wisdom to change their agricultural methods. Months later, the famine ended, and Oron continued his travels. He never claimed credit, the Geniez never did. They believed that knowledge belonged to the world, not to those who carried it. But legends are fragile. Over time, records fade, memories blur, and truth becomes tangled with myth. As new civilizations emerged and old ones crumbled, the Geniez gradually disappeared. Some say they moved deeper into uncharted lands, carrying their stories to protect them from conquest. Others say they faded into the spirit world, becoming guardians of dreams. Whatever the truth, the disappearance of the Geniez left humanity with only fragments of their once vast record. Yet the lessons they taught continued to influence humanity, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. Their belief in the power of stories shaped early education systems. Their ideas about balance influenced philosophers in distant lands. Their warnings against greed and tyranny echoed in revolutions. Their celebration of compassion inspired movements that changed nations. Today, archaeologists find symbols and carvings that seem to represent Geniez ideas: spirals for memory, twins for balance, rivers for continuity. Scholars debate whether these are truly Geniez markings or the remnants of unrelated cultures. But those who study legends know the truth. Stories survive in places where people once listened. The Great Geniez Record may no longer exist in its full form, but its spirit endures. Every culture that values wisdom over conquest, every philosopher who seeks truth, every storyteller who tries to capture the essence of humanity, each carries a spark of the Geniez within them. For the Geniez believed that stories were not meant to be owned. They were meant to be shared, lived, and carried across generations. And so their greatest lesson remains alive, that the world is shaped not only by the hands of rulers or the strength of armies, but by the stories people choose to believe, retell, and preserve. In the end, the Geniez themselves became part of the very thing they protected, a legend that built the world. Their voices may have faded, but their influence still flows like rivers through the landscape of human history. And maybe, somewhere in a forgotten valley or a hidden cave, the last keeper of the Geniez record still whispers the ancient words that once guided civilizations. Or, perhaps the record now lives within us, waiting to be rediscovered each time a story changes a life, saves a kingdom, or shapes a future.